Welcome to What Matters Most.
We are dedicated to educating the community about holistic, metaphysical, and spiritual topics.
Each week, we discuss things that matter most in life, the things that are most important to you that may have fallen to the wayside.
We are always centered on the idea of simplifying life, connecting with our neighbors, and following our true paths.
Our mission is to empower you to live the life that you've always dreamed of living.
We invite you to focus your life on what matters most. This is Kristen.
And this is Maria.
From Experience Nirvana, and today we will be talking about your beliefs and what you think that you are physically capable of and what you're not.
And so here's a question. Do you have things that you'd like to change about what you feel that you can or you can't do?
Or accomplish, right?
Yeah, because I know I certainly have a lot of things that I'd love to be able to get rid of quickly and efficiently and not have to be dealing with anymore.
Right. I think a lot of what happens for us is we have these limitations that we put on ourselves about, and it's all in our psyche, it's about,
Is it limitations or is it phobias or is it a combination of both?
I think it's a combination.
Yep.
It depends on the person. Like you, I know that you have issues with going down escalators.
I have a horrible time going down escalators.
It's so crazy,
oh,
too.
Oh, my God.
If everyone out there listening could just watch her try to go down an escalator.
Can't do it.
It's the most ridiculous thing. And sometimes I'll try to push her and I'll go, come on, just go. I can't
go unless other people are in front of me.
No.
And they have to be people I know.
And it has to be people that she knows, and it has to be immediately in front of her.
Immediately in front of
her. And then it's like 1, 2, step.
Yeah, right.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
And so half the time, like growing up, she would make us always take elevators.
I always took an elevator.
I loved it when you were little. We started to learn the elevators all over the mall.
I did. Yep, I
Gordon
did.
Taylor, Macy's.
Everywhere.
It was so obnoxious.
Right, I wouldn't go into a building unless I
right.
knew where the elevator was. I actually remember being specifically an example. I had gone into some type of department store and there was something wrong with the general public elevator, and you couldn't use it. So you had to get down using the escalator. I remember being...
What about a handicapped person?
I don't know what they would have done, but we had to get the store manager, and they had to actually take us down in the freight elevator.
Did I do that with you?
Yeah.
I must have been really young.
And it was a crazy freight elevator. It was kind of like the kind that you see like on TV where the bars open up going down, and like that was the only way. And I remember we had to tell them that I had a very horrible anxiety. I'd have anxiety attacks or something.
Do they think you were nuts?
I'm sure they've dealt with other crazy people, so I'm just one of the
many crazies.
Yeah.
So that's something.
Those are limitations.
So does that sound familiar to you?
Yeah.
Maybe not to everyone.
Right.
Okay. Well, but there's other phobias. Some people don't like tight spaces.
Yeah.
Whatever you are really scared of, you think you can't deal with. We all know it's obviously in our mind.
Absolutely.
It's mind over matter sort of thing, and that's so easy to say, well, yeah, it's just in your mind, but to actually change it, it really is a momentous thing to be able to change your beliefs and kind of open up your life to a whole new set of possibilities.
Right. Very liberating, because I would think that what happens is if you have something in particular that you've been challenged with in your life, whether it's a phobia or an anxiety or in general, to be able to move past that
and conquer it.
Not only conquer that, but also it's like now that I've been able to do that,
I can do anything.
I can do something else.
Right.
And so it's just the beginning, the first part of making all of these wonderful changes in your life, and think of what you can actually do and what you can share with not only people that are close in your life, you're intimate with, but also what you'd be able to do for society and how that could just spread. So
I remember when I was younger, I used to have, I guess, I don't know if it was a phobia or not, but I was scared out of my mind about speaking in front of people.
Oh, that was really bad.
I used to have such anxiety.
Yep.
I would lose my marbles.
Yep.
I would be in hysterics. I just could not handle it. I couldn't handle it. I remember I even went to hypnosis. I
Yeah,
went
you
for
did.
hypnosis.
You did. That's right.
And
yeah.
I think it actually, I don't have an issue with it anymore. And
No.
I don't know if it was the hypnosis or maybe I just somehow figured out I had to move past it. I don't know. But I signed up for an acting class, which is ridiculous because for somebody who can't speak in front of people.
Oh, yeah.
But I remember my first day. I remember this was many years ago before I went to the holistic side. I was still smoking cigarettes back then. And I remember I went outside and I just started smoking cigarettes nonstop.
I remember you calling and you were crying hysterical.
Screaming, hysterical,
yeah,
because I was
outside,
so
you
scared.
couldn't even go inside.
Right.
No.
So if you have your own kind of shtick, I have my own issue.
Stuff.
Everybody has it. And to make a long story short, I ended up moving past it, but it was one of the scariest things I've ever learned to deal with. And sometimes I still get a little scared, but what an empowering thing that I was able to move past it, because now to know that I really don't have it makes me feel so much more confident, and it affects every area of my life. So imagine if everyone out there listening, think about what is holding you back.
Absolutely.
Is it holding you back in your career? Is it holding you back from finding your soulmate? Starting a relationship? Is it holding you back from maybe making a move? Buying a house. Right.
Actually.
Anything.
Yeah.
Whatever it is that might be holding you back because of your beliefs. We're here with Larry Levine. Larry has been a student and a facilitator of personal change and personal development for more than 35 years. He currently helps clients produce a desired change quickly and easily using the core remedy technique, which we will go into a little bit later in the show. But Mr. Levine also, he frequently offers seminars that aid in the reduction or elimination of fear, anxiety, and stress. And he also offers seminars to social workers and therapists. Mr. Levine began leading Firewalks more than 20 years ago, and he has actually had over 10,000 people participate. So welcome, Larry. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you, Larry.
Well, thank you for having me. And please call me Larry. Mr. Levine sounds so formal.
Well, we'll try.
Try to remember that one. Larry, you had some very significant situations that happened in your life medically that influenced you into developing your core remedy program. So maybe you could tell our listeners a little bit about that so they have an understanding of where you came from and why you ended up taking this particular path.
Okay. Well, it turns out that I thought I was fairly healthy, and I was getting my own medical examination in advance of getting a life insurance policy.
Oh.
And through a series of accidental tests, it became discovered that I had something called a pheochromocytoma, which medical people just call a pheo, and it's very rare, happens to 1 in 2 million people. And I got diagnosed with this grapefruit-sized tumor on my adrenal gland.
Oh my
goodness. Oh, wow.
And I tried every type of alternative approach. I went to see the Dalai Lama's personal physician when he was in New York City. He told me to have surgery. I spoke with Andrew Weil. He told me to have surgery.
Really?
I went to the top doctor of traditional Chinese medicine in New York City. He told me to have surgery.
Wow.
And wherever I went, any medical professional or any alternative medical professional that understood what my diagnosis was, they told me to go have the surgery.
Wow.
So I ended up having this horrendous surgery, which took 9 hours.
Oh, gosh.
I was in recovery for intensive care for 3 days.
Okay.
And I recovered from the surgery, but I had, if there is such a diagnosis, I would call it post-surgical shock syndrome.
Wow.
And after the surgery, I was not myself. I was actually extremely depressed. I was suicidal, and I had no idea what to do. And I started, I went back to my surgeon at Columbia Presbyterian, and he looked at the work that he did and said that, the operation part on the tumor was done fine,
boy.
And all the psychiatric department did was recommend drug after drug after drug.
Oh, God, of course.
And for a few years, I was highly depressed,
Oh my goodness.
suicidal, and taking every antidepressant, antipsychotic, anti-anxiety pill alone and in combination.
Oh my
And
goodness.
I was a mess for close to 2 years.
Oh my gosh, Larry.
It's horrible.
I used to go into the closet and sit on the floor in the dark and just cry, sometimes for 20, 30 minutes at a time.
Oh my goodness
Wow.
gracious.
How horrible. What courage it must have taken you just to try to move forward from that. I mean, I don't know how you get yourself out of such a dark place.
So what happened next to Larry?
Well, I had 2 kids. I still have 2 kids, but I had 2 daughters at the time who were fairly young. So now they're 13 and 18. They were 10 years younger then. And I had the method picked out. I had everything ready to take my own life.
Oh
The
my.
only thing that stopped me was that I did not want to risk either one of my kids finding my body.
Oh.
And so I ended up not doing it.
Wow.
Oh my goodness.
But it was a pretty dark time.
Yes, it
And
certainly is.
during those close to 2 years, I didn't work. I didn't go out much, and I was an emotional and psychological mess. Thanks to my surgeon, besides everything else, I was also addicted to painkillers.
Oh.
And literally one day, I just got sick and tired of being sick and tired,
Right.
and I went off of everything
Wow.
cold turkey,
Oh my.
literally overnight, and just decided that I wasn't going to live this way anymore.
Oh my God, Larry.
Just had enough. You had just gotten to the point where I've had enough of it.
I just got to the point where I had to make the decision
Yeah.
to live a sane life
Right.
or don't live any life.
Yep.
I just decided to live.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. What courage and strength that must have taken.
So what did you do next?
Well, I actually started firewalking 27 years ago, and 24 years ago, I decided to get certified as an instructor. So I had been putting on events now for more than 20 years with over 10,000 people, and that 2-year period where I was pretty much a mess gave me a new approach or an added approach to bring to the seminars that I was doing, because not that it should become a contest, but I was pretty sure that in any seminar I gave, I was the most messed up person in the room.
Wow.
Wow.
And from that perspective, I was pretty sure that I could help anybody get through what they were getting through, because I thought I had been through the worst. Well, what I found to be really interesting, there is this state, and when I talk about it, we all know what it is, and I call it being resourceful.
Right.
So there is a state of being resourceful where you're really able to think and analyze, and there's intuition and there's judgment. And when I talk about being resourceful, most people know what I'm talking about.
Sure.
When someone is depressed, when someone is stressed, when someone has a high level of anxiety, they're not able to access that resourcefulness.
Right.
And I found that during that time, even though I had a lot of skills and a lot of training,
Yeah.
I couldn't get to it.
You can tap
I couldn't
into
get
it.
anywhere near it. And I wasn't able to help myself. I certainly wasn't in a position to help others.
Okay.
And so around that time, I made a study of not only resourcefulness, because I had had a lot of training in a lot of different areas. I'm trained as a master NLP practitioner.
Okay.
I'm certified as a hypnotist. I'm certified used it the most, I couldn't use any of it.
Yeah, that is intriguing, yes.
And so in a lot of the one-on-one work that I do, and in a lot of the group work that I do in seminars, I actually help people get to that resourceful state and to be able to get there on their own. And most people can heal pretty well when they're in a resourceful state. It's when that feeling of being overwhelmed or desperate, when that becomes the dominant state, it doesn't matter what your training is or what you're able to do, because you just can't get to it.
Right, so you're helping them kind of get past that, get through it, and kind of use their own inertia to make it happen.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And what I found is that a lot of the non-resourcefulness that we have is actually the result of unresolved or unexpressed childhood experiences that we still carry with us in our bodies. But when you think about, I don't know, how many of you listening are parents, so we've all had parents, and as a parent, part of our role is to keep our children safe.
Right.
And we start off by telling them about things that are very specific. Don't touch the stove, it's hot. Don't touch the knife, it's sharp.
Mm-hmm.
Don't touch this bottle, there's poison in it.
Right.
And in the beginning, we're very specific about what could be dangerous, and we can't possibly teach our kids everything that's dangerous, so we generalize.
Of course.
And we start off with broad generalizations. If it's hot, if it's sharp, if we don't know what it is, stay away from it.
Right.
And we actually teach our kids to be afraid of anything that's new. And that's a great program to run in a child that's 4 years old, 7 years old, 14 years old, when their judgment and their experience is limited.
Right.
But by the time you're an older teenager, by the time you're adult, your judgment has increased, your experience in the world has increased, and yet that original program as a child, if it's new, if it's unfamiliar, if you're not sure what it is, it's dangerous.
Wow.
That program's still running.
Wow.
And it manifests in adults in a lot of situations. I can speak from my own experience where I would feel anxiety far in excess of what the current situation was. And I never understood why. Why was I feeling so stressed? Why was I feeling so anxious?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And eventually I realized that I had these childhood programs that I was running as an adult, and I had the emotional program of a 5-year-old. I had the adult resources of, whether I was in my 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, I had these adult resources, and they weren't connected to each other. And the thing that was really dictating how I felt was that childhood emotional program, because it just wasn't connected to my adult resourcefulness.
So was there something in particular that happened, Larry, that helped you connect the dots and realize that? Because I don't think most people would just come across that information or stumble upon it. Was there something significant that happened?
Well, what I noticed was that people who are studying, like people in medicine, study disease. And so I began studying people and people that had achieved results on their own without any outside intervention. And I wanted to find out, how did they get to the place where I wanted to be?
Right.
And they basically went through their childhood experiences, resolved them, and became integrated as a fully functioning adult. And I started developing processes and started borrowing parts of other processes that did the same thing.
Right.
And the core remedy technique that I use connects strong childhood emotions that are stored in the body, and through this process of guidance guidance and connection. I bring the childhood emotions connected to the adult resources, and you end up with someone who is able to function in the present moment using their current resources.
Larry, please tell us about this core remedy technique. And now I want to double check. Now, core, that stands for something, right? Could you tell me about that?
Yes, CORE stands for Conscious Outcome Reprogramming Experience.
Okay.
And the starting point is having the person that I'm working with tell me the outcome that they want.
Oh.
And because they're telling it to me,
Yeah.
they're fully conscious. It's a conscious outcome. This is what I want.
Yes, yes.
Now, most people are conditioned to talk in terms of things that they don't want.
Exactly.
So someone will come to me and I'll say, well, what would you want? And they say, I don't want to be stressed.
Yeah.
I'll say, that's you're telling me what you don't want.
Right.
I don't want to be anxious.
Right.
Well, what do you want?
Right, right.
I want to be calm and peaceful.
Okay.
And, I'll ask questions, when? And they'll say, all the time.
Huh.
And I'll say, I don't think that you want to be calm and peaceful all the time.
Right.
Sometimes it's appropriate not to be calm and peaceful.
Yeah, yeah.
If you're driving in your car and a car is coming at you head on,
Yeah.
that's not the best response to be calm and peaceful.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
So it's about getting really clear on exactly what you want and in what time frames, I guess.
Right. And people will come to me with weight issues. And I'll say, what would you like? And they say, I'd like to stop eating. And I say, I know people who have stopped eating. They're all dead.
Exactly. Right. Right. That's not.
And
It's not clear.
that's not really what they want.
Right. It's
What
not.
they actually want is to stop eating when they're full
Oh,
and
okay.
to eat when they're hungry.
Right.
And the people that overeat, because I've worked with a lot of them, they will actually tell you that they go from a state of being hungry to a state of being bloated.
Bloated. Okay.
And the issue that they have is that they don't actually experience that moment when they're satiated.
Right.
They've had enough. They go from hungry to bloated.
Right.
And what they really want is a mechanism inside their body that gives them that feedback that says,
I'm
I've
full.
eaten enough now, I don't need any more.
Right.
I feel okay.
Right.
Larry, so then I'm sorry, let me ask you. So in these situations that you're talking about, all of these, I don't know what you would call it, but things that people are looking at to change in their life, they're all basically triggered from an experience or something relative to their childhood?
Well, I'll tell you a story.
Oh, good.
I was in a diner a while back, and I was having coffee by myself, and a young father sits down at the diner
Uh-huh.
at the counter with two children, and right at eye level on the counter are
Cookies.
cupcakes and
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
Yummy-
yeah.
yummies.
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 And the child says, "Dad, I'd like a cupcake for breakfast."
Sure. Uh-oh.
And the father says,
Okay.
"You can have a cupcake if you're good.
Oh, okay, got it.
But first you have to eat your eggs."
Okay.
Now at 4 or 5 years old, this kid now has a link.
When I'm good.
Cupcakes
Yeah.
equal my father's approval. Means I'm good.
Yes, right, right.
Now that's how you can create an eating disorder. Anytime you're feeling bad, have a cupcake and it equals your father's approval.
Oh,
Doesn't that feel
jeez.
good?
Yes, yeah.
Oh, man.
And that's completely unconscious.
Yes, of course. And the person
Okay.
that's involved with doing that, the father, for example,
Doesn't realize.
doesn't even realize what they're doing. They're just things people say without really thinking
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah, it's just things that I've probably said it to my kids.
Sure.
I know that my parents said it to me.
Yep.
And I get to work with adults. And when I'm having a conversation, and literally I have a conversation with the unconscious mind of the adult.
Hmm.
And
Okay.
Why do you do this behavior?
Right.
What positive intention does it serve? And there is always a positive intention that it serves.
Wow.
Always. Okay.
Always. And the unconscious will come up and say, I eat because. I eat because I feel approval. I eat because I feel protected.
Mm-hmm.
I eat because I feel loved.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And for a 4 or 5-year-old, 10-year-old, that's a great way of generating that feeling. When you're 20, 30, 40, and you're still generating those feelings in those ways, you end up with extreme issues that are a result of years and years of doing a behavior that no longer honors the original intention.
Larry, how do you get to the subconscious level of the individual so that you can tap into that? Because obviously these things are going on and we're not really consciously aware of it.
I can guide somebody into this unconscious. What I do is I actually talk to them, and I'm in physical contact with them.
Sure.
And so I have my hand on their back.
Okay.
And when you put your hand on somebody's back, we have an expression. I got your back.
Oh, right.
Right.
And
I got your
our
back.
bodies and our language are so literal that when you allow someone to touch your back, or when someone is touching your back, literally, there is this state of high rapport, high trust that's created. And when I have somebody's back, I'm in a state of very high rapport with them, and they trust me.
Okay.
And then I'm guiding them with my words, I'm mirroring their breathing, and I bring them into an induced state of very, very light trance, where I'm able to bring them back to the childhood experience where they first exhibited that behavior or where they first felt that feeling.
Okay.
And it's relatively easy to do. I've not found anybody that couldn't get there. And once they're in that spot, and you ask that person, why do you eat? What good comes of this eating?
Uh-huh.
Or why do you get stressed? What good comes of this stress?
Right.
And someone might say, it makes me alert. And yeah, stress does make you alert when you're 5 years old, 7 years old, 10 years old. But by the time you're in your 20s or 30s or 40s, there's a lot more efficient ways of becoming alert and highly functional that don't involve getting stressed out.
Right.
And when I suggest to the person that they can maintain the purpose, they can maintain that reason, I'd like to be alert, but they could do it in a much more productive and a much more efficient way, everyone is willing to try something new at the unconscious level.
Right.
Larry, what I think is very significant, and that you mentioned, was that in your working with these people that have all these different behaviors that they're looking to change, your particular procedure that you developed actually works very quickly. It doesn't involve numerous visits to you and sessions and all of that. So maybe you could share a little bit about that and maybe even give us some examples, because that's really quite amazing.
Well, what happens with the human mind is that we actually learn quickly. We learn in an instant. It may take us a long time to get to that instant,
Okay.
but when we finally get there, we know it.
Yeah.
And some people call it the aha moment.
Right.
Some people call it that moment where the light bulb goes on. But it happens instantaneously.
Mm-hmm.
And when a program gets installed, it gets installed instantaneously, and it works precisely without any maintenance and without any conscious thought or awareness. And the example I give is, imagine if you're crossing the street not stepped in the dog poop?
Well, not much, because
None at all.
Right,
No, right.
Actually, you'd have to work to step in the dog poop.
Right,
You'd
Right.
have to violate a program.
Right,
because
you don't-
nobody would want to.
Right, right.
Yeah, nobody would want to. And we don't actually that I have an anti-dog poop program installed in me. But we have thousands of programs installed, and they're all working perfectly within the context in which they operate.
Yeah.
And certain programs are regarded as problematic, but they're only problematic in a certain context.
Right.
So, we're very familiar with phobias.
Sure.
And most people would say, I have a phobia and I'd like to get rid of it. And I offer people the opportunity to install phobias.
Really?
Yeah. How would you like to have a phobia of chocolate?
I would love
How
that.
would you like to have a phobia of being late?
No, I wouldn't like that.
I deal with people who are procrastinators. I deal with people who, are hoarders.
Yeah, sure.
Imagine installing a phobia into a procrastinator of being afraid of not getting things done.
Oh, all right, got it.
Or in a hoarder, installing a phobia of being afraid of running out of room.
Got it, got it.
And they're just opposite sides of the same behavior.
Yeah, I see what you're saying, yes.
And they're perfectly running programs. And once you understand the structure of a behavior, the actual content of the behavior doesn't matter. So when you find somebody that won't step in dog poop,
Yeah,
they have a perfectly running program.
yeah.
And all I have to do is find context where that program would be helpful.
Wow.
Or find somebody that has a phobia and find the context where that phobia, that structure, would be helpful. Not the fear of getting in an airplane, but the fear of something.
Right. I see what you're saying. What's really amazing also about it is that with you being able to do this on such a rapid basis, I mean, think of the years of therapy people spend time and money and effort in trying to resolve these issues and behaviors, and you've been able to develop your program that can get right to it within, I think you said, anywhere between 1 to 3 hours. Is that right?
Yeah. And I've gone to therapy myself
Yeah.
for years. And what I found is that when there was, in those instances where there was a dramatic change, the dramatic change took place literally in moments.
Wow.
And it wasn't because of the 25 hours that I had put in before.
Yeah.
It was in those 2 or 3 minutes in which something just happened. And let me relate this to the Firewalk. The reason why I love the Firewalk and the metaphor of the Firewalk is because it represents a very, very solid idea. It's an idea that most people have. For most people, it's very real. And it starts off with a set of rules. I can't walk on red-hot coals without getting burned.
Of course.
It must be painful.
Right.
It's been pre-programmed, right?
There's a clear set of rules. There's a clear set of beliefs. And it goes in the context of, by the way, I've actually never done this before. I've actually never done it myself.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
So if you analyze this, you say, well, there's an activity that I've never done.
Yep.
I may or may not be aware that there's 500,000 living Americans that have already done this, but I am still convinced that this is something that I cannot do.
Right. Well, it's something that you learn so early in childhood. I mean, you don't touch fire. If you're not going to touch fire, you're not sure as heck not going to walk on it.
Right. And in a matter of a few hours, I have otherwise very sane, rational, smart human beings willingly taking their shoes and socks off and walking on the hot coals feeling joyous.
Feeling joyous. Oh, wow.
It's not that they're not afraid, they're actually joyous. I've had people do conga lines at my Firewalks. I've had people do cartwheels over the hot coals.
Wow.
People walk hand in hand. It actually turns into something that was fear, and now it's fun.
Do they actually go back through the line again, Larry, and go over the coals again a second time?
Over and over again. I've had people that have walked 20, 30 times at their first firewalk.
What?
My youngest daughter, who is now 13, did her first firewalk with me when she was 11.
Oh my God. So I'm guessing they don't get burned.
No, they don't get burned. I haven't been visited by ditus. Actually, people think that my kids are pretty tremendous in terms of how they behave and how they analyze situations.
Right.
And my 11-year-old, as part of the firewalking seminar, has walked barefoot on broken glass. She's walked on the hot coals, and she brings her friends to my events
Oh my
with their
gosh.
parents. And everyone is just amazed at how fearless the kids are.
So Larry, I think I just heard you say walking on broken glass too.
Yeah.
Obviously I'm assuming that's possible, but okay, the coals I could see maybe not getting burned on, but walking on broken glass and not cutting up your feet?
Yeah, I don't know how to explain why, but with the firewalking and the broken glass,
Yeah.
I've done it with over 10,000 people
Wow.
over the last 24 years,
Right.
and no one has ever gotten cut.
Wow. That's amazing.
What I actually ask people to do is when they're on the broken glass,
Right.
I ask them to dance.
Are you kidding?
Oh,
It's not enough to get over your fears. Now it's time to have fun with your fears.
oh
And
man.
when you see people on the broken glass dancing, you know that they've actually conquered a fear. But it's not that the value is not having conquered a specific fear. It's not conquering the fear of walking on broken glass or conquering the fear of walking on hot coals. It's having that idea in your head. How many things have I been living with that I've been afraid to do, that I've never tried, that are actually safe and fun?
Right, so it gives you a new perspective on your life, maybe opening you up to how many other things that you've been holding off on.
And when I start the seminars, I write on a board, how would you live life differently if you knew you could not fail?
Yes.
And that's really what I want people to lead with.
Right.
A new perspective. Are you playing to win, or are you playing not to lose? Because they're very, very different attitudes.
Absolutely. And Larry, most people are playing not to lose?
I would say most people are playing not to lose, and they're barely in the game.
Yeah. Yeah.
And once you are done with this firewalking seminar, you have this new feeling of confidence, this new belief in yourself about what you can and cannot do.
Right.
And what you can and cannot do is just an idea, it's just a thought.
So it's your outlook. It's the way that you perceive what you are physically capable of and what you are not physically capable of. And if you change that, you can change your whole life.
Yeah, and I don't completely understand it. Some of the things that I see happen during my seminars and elsewhere seem to defy the laws of physics. And it just means that I don't understand all the laws of physics.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Because when I see people dancing on broken glass, doing cartwheels on hot coals, it's just amazing.
So you've gone back then, Larry, and spoken with these people after they've gone through your fire walks or glass walks or whatever, and actually spoken with them. And was that the beginning point for them in making other changes in their life? Was that their aha moments that if I can walk on fire, well then what can't I do?
Yeah, I've had people, having walked with over 10,000 people,
Yep.
I'd like to say that I remember and recognize everyone, but obviously it's not true.
Sure.
And once or twice a year, someone will approach me
Yep.
and they'll say, are you Larry? And I'll say, yeah. And they'll say, I was at your seminar 7 years ago, or I was at your seminar 19 years ago, and I just want you to know how much it affected my life.
Wow. And then they tell you about the changes that they may have made from that point forward.
Yeah, and some changes are pretty dramatic, and some changes are, like someone said, I'm a different parent because of the seminar that I went through.
Wow. That's really
Talk to
exciting.
their kids differently. They talk to their coworkers differently.
Right.
They talk to themselves differently, which is the big change.
That's wild.
And I tell people that you learn as much from your internal dialogue about how you make the decision,
Right.
regardless of what that decision is.
Right.
So if you're deciding to walk broken glass, or you decide not to walk on broken glass, when you're making that decision, you're having a conversation with yourself,
Sure.
and the value is in paying attention to the conversation. It doesn't matter what you decide. What matters is that you understand the process by which you use to make decisions for yourself.
Right.
And that in itself is very, very significant, Larry, because as you had said, it's not it's symbolic to walk across the fire, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to do that to actually still
Reap the
have
benefits.
some kind of right
Reaping the
experience of
benefits.
change in yourself, in your life.
For most of us, we're on automatic pilot. We make decisions based on our childhood program while we're completely disconnected to our adult resources.
Sure. Well,
We really have gotten a tremendous amount of information from you, Larry. I wanted to thank you, both of us want to thank you so much for spending time with us, giving our listeners a really good amount of information about the Firewalk and what's involved in it, and the potential changes that they'll see in their life. And so before we end, I do want to ask you, what is it that matters most to you as far as what you're looking to make a change in the world, what you would like to leave behind?
If there was one thing I could do, it would be just to bring a level of awareness to people so that they not only are paying attention to why they do things, but they also have an understanding why other people do things.
Oh, that's significant, Larry, because I guess the starting point would be looking within yourself and understanding why you're doing certain things, and then we take it a step beyond.
Yeah, because I believe we're all doing the best we can.
Yep.
And I believe that other people are doing the best they can as well. And a lot of times we just make the judgment that their best isn't good enough for us.
right.
Oh boy, yeah.
Right.
And I experience that, especially when I'm in traffic and there's somebody particularly inattentive or slow in front of me. Boy, do I wish that, that they were in back of me instead of in front of me.
Oh yeah.
I feel that way many times.
And I just, I just put my awareness into the other car and I say, they're probably enjoying the drive.
Yeah.
Not in a hurry to get where they're going.
Right.
And if I was focused on enjoying the drive, I wouldn't be noticing them.
Oh yeah. Just different places, exactly.
Right.
Well, thank you again, Larry. And as we conclude this particular show, we would like to remind our listeners that the simple things in life are what matters most. Namaste.
Namaste.